The proposed amendment of the Electricity Act of 2023 to make the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, the sole regulatory agency for enforcing technical standards in the power sector, has been generating reactions. The 36 states of the Federation, through their Commissioners for Power and Energy, kicked against the plan by the National Assembly and also the attempt by the lawmakers to bar them from performing regulatory functions such as enforcing technical standards in the electricity sector in their jurisdictions. Reacting to this development, we had Dr. Olubiyo, Managing Director of IDFON Power Engineering Consultants, on the morning show yesterday, who criticized the move to alter the Electricity Act and also called for the scrapping of NEMSA. Joining us on the morning show for a right of reply is Kunle Kola Olubiyo, President of the Nigerian Consumer Protection Network and member of the Presidential Ad Hoc Committee on Review of Electricity Tariff in Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Ayo, Dr. Abati, and the other panelists.
Well, Mr. Olubiyo, I imagine that you listened to Dr. Olubiyo yesterday. Dr. Olubiyo comes to this subject,
yes,
his credentials, PhD Manchester in power systems, head of IDFON engineering, and he's worked previously within the Nigerian system in the power sector. So he knows his subject. But he is of the view that NEMSA is irrelevant and that power, the electricity supply, being under the concurrent list, that the states should be allowed to set their own standards. But I understand that you have a different opinion. Although I had asked him yesterday when he was on this program,
yes,
after all, we have NAFDAC, which is a national body, and that standards cannot be at the mercy, or should not be determined based on the whims and caprices of the subnationals. There must be general standard. But he thinks, no, we've gone that route before, and it will not work. And that NEMSA should be scrapped. What is the alternative point of view that you have?
Thank you very much. After the interview, I spoke at length with my brother, Dr. Olubiyo. I'm aware that he was head of safety, Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company at the outset of privatization. He was special advisor to Kaduna State Governor. Before now, on until recently, maybe in circumstances that I may not be able to paint the picture here, he was the chief technical officer, CTO of Nigerian Power. That's the SPP that's represented over the failed, I say failed without apology, Siemens Power project. Talk is cheap. He has been in the saddle and for 3-4 years, and you agree with me that Siemens Power project generation have been political megawatts, where Dr. Olubiyo was just relieved of his appointment as a CTO and is now back to this side, on the side of advocacy. And I understand that he's doing a good job for the State Forum of Commissioner for Electricity or Energy. Yeah, he was there expressing opinion. Yes, he has done exactly as justified his pay. And as a brother, I want to restrict myself to speaking to the issues. And what are the issues? In 2013, we all agreed that Nigeria has the highest procurement rate for power sector specific procurement. You see, transformer oil that could go for just 100,000 was being issued at any amount of money. You could see 10 million, 20 million without regards to market survey or the reality. It was just like draining of federal government. And federal government, in its wisdom, decided that we need to de-escalate or reduce public sector funding. That led to some negative trend like downsizing and right-sizing, and federal government properties that you see in a year, a public servant will raise fire like 5 times. Dr. Abati, you've been in the villa, you've been in the system, and you know some of these things that we cannot even stay in public space. You see a house being occupied by a government official, they will get approval 6 times of 10 million to do renovation. When they get one approval, they will detach or remove them from the file, open another temporary file, another file, create another policy file, and represent the approval, and they will still get approval. So all those manner of wastages. President Olusegun Obasanjo, in his wisdom, under his leadership, decided that such houses through RFI should be sold to public servants, and the burden is now taken away from government. The same thing happened in the power sector. It's a learning curve. The essence of privatization is that we had a system where the depth of investment was very, very low, and in reality, government has a lot of competing demands and could not meet the funding mileage of the power sector. So federal government decided to privatize. But the mistake we made then is that privatization in itself was predetermined. It was not subjected to global best practices. The right set of licenses were not selected. It was predetermined by BP. I've been here on several occasions, and I've spoken on that. I won't want to bother you about that. So after the privatization, what is the essence of privatization? Is to create competitive electricity market. Competition, to us as end user, my consumer protection or consumer, which includes this studio and you and I, we don't have the right to alternative or to make choice. When a customer or consumer is not satisfied, for example, I'm talking about Challenge and Felele in Ibadan now. They've been out of supply for 2 weeks. The publisher of one of the online medium just had to send a report that we're sending to Ibadan. The customers invest in the network and without a template for refund of our money. So what the privatization has brought about is that, competition that is most envisaged. But what we have at the moment in the last 11 years is an entrenchment of market monopoly. So very recently, we all advocated in 2015 for constitutional alteration, amendment of the Constitution. There are landmark economic activities or critical sector that were before now listed under, based on the ministry mindset, listed under exclusive list. And the Constitution or the model we have is presidential system of government. And for you to have true federalism, there are some responsibility where we copy this Constitution from the US that are devolved to the subnational. So the Fifth Amendment or alteration of the Constitution succeeded. You recall that the reason why it failed in 2013 is that Adoke said that he does not agree to the separation of the position of minister, a political appointee, from the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. And that led to President Jonathan not signing that alteration that will have been done in 2015. That captured beyond Electricity Act. But this milestone we've achieved is that we did amendment, fifth alteration of the Constitution, moving electricity from exclusive list to concurrent list. That means that the states now have responsibility within intrastate, within their jurisdiction, to give licenses for generation, transmission, and distribution. But before now, we should not forget where we're coming from. The states, there's nowhere called Nigeria. It's the 36 states at the FCC that makes up the federation. And the federation manages the national grid. You have generation, transmission, and distribution. So the spirit and letter of the Electricity Act, in 2015, there are about 14 IPPs, independent power plants, that apply to NEC, that apply to MBET, that apply to TCN. They raised bond. They were in Nigeria for about 10 years. They wanted to invest in off-grid renewable energy. Okay. But because of bureaucratic bottleneck, they were not granted license. So the Electricity Act, what it aimed to achieve is that the states now can grant license for generation, transmission, and distribution intrastate that is not within the purview of the national grid. Yeah. Why the regulatory agencies, NEC and NEMSA, we manage the grid. We cannot balkanize the grids. There are already existing infrastructure. Okay. But what we complain, like what we have in JOS, you have NASCO and Just Electricity Distribution Company running side by side and providing competition and providing consumer alternative. Our major concern is that if you are not satisfied with the services of Ibadan Disco or Eco Electricity, of course grossly dissatisfied. We don't have alternative. And that is what we say the state should do with the Electricity Act.
All right, let me come in here,
They
sir.
can do their own network.
Yes. Okay, so they can provide. Thank you so much. And because we're almost running out of time, but thanks for laying the foundation. What I wanted to ask you was, you yourself have said it, that as a result of the work that NEMSA and other stakeholders have done, the electricity power generation was moved from the executive list to the concurrent list. And so that's the argument of these states, the FEPCO, I believe it's called, who've come together to say, FOCPEN, I beg your pardon, who've come together to write that they don't need any additional oversight. It's a duplication of responsibilities and duties. In fact, they argued further, saying that if you look at the operational track record of NEMSA, it's nothing to write home about, especially when you look at the statistics that have come out in terms of deaths that have occurred, and casualties, despite the fact that you've maintained. And so they don't need any additional oversight. Yes, they said that it raises serious concerns how far you've operated, saying that next report, which stated that 172 Nigerians lost their lives due to electricity-related accidents between January 2023 and June 2024, and 115 fatalities recorded. I'm sure you've seen their letter. I'm sure you've seen what they have said about NEMSA's inefficiencies.
I have the copy of the letter.
Okay, so I'd like you to respond to that.
So,
why the need for a duplication of effort? It's a waste of resources. What they're saying is that at best, NEMSA should come under NERC as a department, not stand on its own as an agency. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I'm a family man, and I'm a Yoruba man by descent. I know that where I come from, to make a soup of orunla with those fish that used to disappear, ayo, with 1,000, 2,000, if I marry a Yoruba woman, if I give her 1,000, 2,000, she will make a good soup for me.
Really?
But ayo, if you want to go into those
1,000?
Yes.
In 2024?
Orunla, 1,000, 2,000,
Please show us your market, Bob. Go ahead.
But if you want to, I'm right, but the last time I asked my woman to make ofe owori. I used to hear ofe owori. She should go and this thing. She gave me a bill of 40,000 naira. The soup was taken in one soup. It didn't last for 2 days. But obeto dun owolopa, better soup na money killer. So what we are saying is that for us to get it right, generation has to be private sector led, because public sector business model is not about making profit. I've seen an agency of government, without fear of contradiction, that issued out a job in Delta and Akwa Ibom State for 13 billion, and they used 600 million to execute the job. And so there was a profit margin of 12.4 billion. That is public sector mindset, which is about wastages. The private sector business model is about efficiency and revenue optimization, customer centricity, and what have you. So generation, as it were, is public sector led. Distribution, as it is public sector led, with some semblance of equity in with government having a stake. So Transmission Company of Nigeria, as it is now, is a misnomer to remain a public sector business model as a cash cow. So we want the national grid that is within the purview of federal government to be completely privatized, and we have the NSO and TSP. Coming down to the state has enough to do. Take, for example, most of the states that are brandishing their own legal, institutional, regulatory framework, Lagos provided leadership and led. It is the Lagos document that we share with some of these states. Go and do copy and paste and do amendment. There's nothing bad in it. In the health subsector, you have NAFDAC, you have Pharmacy Regulatory Council of Nigeria, you have Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria, you have different agencies.
Let me just buttress as well.
So what we are saying is that upgrade, embedded generation, island model, the state can
Okay.
Do sector-specific
Sure.
generation.
Oh,
What matters
as
to
you're
us
on this
as end-user
point-
customers is that
That's
we
right.
want efficiency and
Okay.
value for our money, an alternative. Not
as you're
speaking
on
to
this-
the issues, not all this embellishment
right.
and distraction.
Okay. As you're on this point, on this trajectory, and as we summarize and round up, I'd just like you to speak to a point that was raised yesterday by Dr. Oyebanjo when he mentioned that NEMSA goes against global best practice. So he was saying one of the main reasons that, it's irrelevant and should be scrapped.
Come again.
He said that NEMSA goes against global best practice, that there's nowhere else in the world where this organization called NEMSA exists and is in operation. So I'd just like you to speak to that point as we round up.
Thank you very much. Government don't just wake up from sleep, Dr. But they have benefit of insight. You have the Presidential Task Force on Power, 2003 Power Sector Reform document here. And in 2003, before NEC was established, there were conflicting responsibility. NEC was envisaged to take charge of issues that got to do with consumer dissatisfaction, conflict resolution. And you have the CPC there now, which is now the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Agency and other agencies. Government had to commission BPE, the Mercado Consultancy, to do a review of the electricity power sector reform bill as it were in 2000. It was passed in 2005. So, and the NEMSA Act was subjected to public hearing. The likes of Idowu Oyebanjo and some other people dissent at that particular time. But the overriding public interest, their submission was defeated. And we've gone beyond that. In Canada, in US, and in the India model, you have a semblance of NEMSA. You can never have too much for safety culture. Safety is everybody's business. The state regulatory authorities should concentrate on how they will provide alternative to end-user customers intrastate.
Okay.
While the national grid, that is the asset of federal government, will continue to be within the purview of NEMSA. Now, there's no disconnect.
All right.
We will emphasize on synergy. The state agencies are agreeing on. They cannot say, okay, because they're already exposed, there's no need for those that have collective institutional memory.
Okay.
So NEMSA, from our own point of view, we are the receiving end of this as customer, end user customer. We have continued to engage the minister.
All right.
He has an open door. We're engaging the subnational. We're engaging the management of NEMSA because we are the receiving end of the infraction. When
all right,
there's
Mr.
a cable
Olubiyo.
snap,
Yeah.
it's not mostly the officer, it's the customers.
Okay.
So synergy, collaboration, for us to get the best and move beyond this 5,600 megawatts that we have been stagnated for the last 10 years.
On that
This is
note, Mr. Olubiyo,
our concern as public, as end user,
yes,
not
sir.
the distraction.
Thank you so much. We're out of time now, but thank you very much for your
It's
right of
my
reply.
pleasure.
And
Thank you very
we
much
look
for
forward to
providing
further
space.
discourse.
And
thank you.
And thank you for your support for our recently organized event, Lemila Day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. You're most welcome.